The agent meta has been pretty calm the past 2 months, with only a few big agent changes that have come in episode 2 so far. But recently, reworks have shaken up the meta a little bit, and that has caused for some of our agents to shift on our ranked tier list. What is going on, ProGuides family? It's your host Sergeant Frost, and today we have the patch 2.07 tier list. Let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Let's start off this list with the S tier. Starting off the top of our tier list strong, we have to give this top spot to the Korean lady with knives, Jet. There's one player in recent memory that has had a huge impact with Jet and has brought her back to the forefront of the meta, and that's FaZe Baby. Jet is an S tier entry fragger mainly because of her ability to create space. She doesn't have damage utility, flashes, or a way to heal herself, but she does have speed, agility, and outplay mechanics that can make your opponents rage quit after the first 3 rounds. Jet may not have the fancy tools her counterparts have in the duelist class, but she certainly does have a way to make plays for herself. And when you combine that ability with a really high level player's skills, she is literally the best agent in the game to play. Next up is Astra. Astra has risen up to S tier for one main reason this patch, and that is due to the buffs her Gravity Well got in her kit. Gravity Well now has the capability to disrupt a player while planting, and that is one of the most OP abilities in the entire game. Astra can literally win a round if she positions her stars in a way where she can drag a planter out of the plant zone and then the round ends. Outside of her Gravity Well buff, Astra is a jack of all trades controller that this game really needed. She has 5 potential smokes, an AoE stun, and a new buffed Gravity Well. And she also has an ultimate that is a get controller site for free card. Astra has always been a top tier controller, but these Gravity Well buffs have pushed her into the S tier for the time being. Rounding out the S tier is Omen. The Spooky Ghost saw a huge spike in his win rate and higher elos. Omen, despite being forgotten with all the controller changes recently, is still one of the most consistent controllers in the class, and his advanced mobility makes him slippery unlike other smoke agents. With all the buffs and changes within the controller class, it's an absolute dogfight for which agent gets the top controller spot. Omen might have gotten slightly nerfed earlier this year, but he is still one of the most consistent and reliable smokers in the entire game. If you guys want to learn how you can dominate with any of these S tier agents, then head over to our website ProGuides.com. On our website, we have veteran high elo coaches who can review your VODs and coach you in real time 24/7. We also have courses written by pro players that you can use to help you improve on demand. Head over to ProGuides.com to reach the rank of your dreams today. Now, let's move into the A tier. Viper has climbed up the mountain to A tier, and rightfully so. Her buffs she got last patch have made her one of the most dangerous threats in the game when she's alive. Honestly, there's an argument that Viper could be an S tier controller. The only reason why she's not up there this patch is because Astra got a buff that made her the best defensive controller in the game this patch. Nonetheless, Viper still has the most damage utility out of all the controllers, and she is not to be messed with. Viper can stay up here for a very long time as long as she doesn't get any nerfs going forward. Phoenix is chilling in the A tier this patch. He's not a bad entry fragger at all, it's just that some agents have gotten so many buffs that allows them to shine a little harder, and that's why they're higher on the list. Phoenix is still the king of entry fragging since Reyna got nerfed, and is sharing that top spot in the duelist class with Jet. Honestly, if Jet wasn't so popular because of the VCT tournament, Phoenix would be number 1 on my list, simply because of his flashes and his heals. Next up in the A tier is the Russian comrade Silva. Silva has been holding down his own at the top of the solo queue meta, and if this tier list was based strictly off of pro play, he'd be at the top of S tier. On the solo queue side, Silva is an agent that needs a lot of proactive play and a lot of practice in order for him to have impact in game. Silva, like Astra, is an agent that requires a big brain player to think on the fly, and uses utility to set up his team with kills and info. He requires a lot of education when it comes to learning lineups and how to use his drone properly. He definitely deserves his spot in A tier. It is without question that I must say Breach has become one of the most annoying agents in the game. He is the equivalent of Teemo from League of Legends and Montang from Rainbow Six Siege in terms of obnoxiousness in game. Breach's kit is designed to not only incapacitate all of his enemies, he tilts them off the face of the earth in the process. Breach is the best initiator right now, and with how many people play him, he's almost an entry fragger at this point as well. Breach is on top of the solo queue meta, and he is looking down at all the agents beneath him. If you want free wins in solo queue, use this Swedish cyborg and start collecting that elo. Okay, if we're being honest, Killjoy is the best agent in the Sentinels class for 2 reasons. First, her lockdown is the best ultimate in the entire game, and it can win an entire round if placed well. Secondly, she has damage utility in her kit, and Sage and Cypher do not, so this means she will always have precedence over them until another Sentinel gets added into the game. Killjoy is a great agent for players that struggle with defense, but she is an agent that requires some game knowledge in order to set her up properly. In my opinion, Killjoy is an agent that every team comp needs, and you can never go wrong picking her. Now, let's move into the B tier. Sage is in B tier this time around because while she is a gutted version of her former self, she is 100% necessary to have in a solo queue team comp. While she might not be picked 100% in competitive play, she honestly should be in solo queue. 2 agents I always recommend to anyone when they ask me who are the best agents to get free wins with, I always have to say Breach and Sage. What they bring to a team, no other agent can bring, and I mean that with all my heart. Not to mention that Sage has the strongest ultimate in the game outside of Killjoy's lockdown. She is an agent that should be in every single team comp in ranked play. Moving on, Reyna has fallen from grace in the meta, and for good reason. She is an agent that was synonymous with smurfing below diamond. She is the agent that will most likely ruin your game if the best player on the other team is playing her. Don't get me wrong, even though she's been nerfed, Reyna is still a monster when she activates her ultimate. But now that she only has 2 orbs instead of 4, she is a very nerfed version of her former self. Okay, moving on, let me be clear. Raze being in B tier does not make her a bad agent at all. She is only here because so many other duelists have been getting buffs and changes from the devs. I mean, just look at the Jett and Phoenix popularity, the Yoru buffs, and the Reyna nerfs. So much is happening in this class that Raze has been sidelined for the time being. Plus, Raze got a quality of life change this patch where her rocket and blast packs are easier for the enemy players to hear. So now she is at an audio disadvantage against anyone who has their headset at a reasonable volume. Cypher is still a great agent to use in game. The problem with him is that Killjoy and Sage offer unique gameplay aspects in their kit that he doesn't have. Killjoy has a lot of damage and the best ultimate in the game, which allows her to have influence as long as she's alive. And Sage can heal everyone, stall the enemy team with CC, and she has a revive that can literally turn the tide of a match. Cypher is great at info gathering, but when his utility is gone or on cooldown, he's not an impactful agent to be using. Let's wrap up the B tier with Yoru. Yoru got a lot of buffs the past few weeks, but he still won't be able to escape B tier for now. Yoru is a lot better now, and he is actually a viable agent to use in rank that's not considered a troll pick anymore. The problem is, he still can't heal himself and he doesn't have any damage utility. So Phoenix, Jett, and Raze will always have priority over him. Honestly, all the devs need to do is rework his footsteps into something useful, and he can shoot up into A tier or S tier easily. His ultimate and flashes are super impactful, so all he needs is a little push to get over that hump and he will become a mainstay meta agent. Now, let's wrap up this video with C tier. Okay, let's explain why Brimstone has fell to C tier this patch. Right now, there is a fierce civil war going on in the controller class within the game. Viper, Astra, Omen, and Brimstone are all neck and neck in the race for the top spot in the class. They all have unique aspects about them that separate themselves from one another as well. Astra is the queen of defense and CC, which makes it hard to push onto a site while she's still alive. Viper is the queen of damage utility and can gut an enemy team if they decide to push through all of her utility. Omen might have gotten some nerfs last act, but he is still one of the most mobile controllers in the entire game, and he still has the most reliable and easy to use smokes in the entire game as well. And let's not forget that his flash and ultimate can win a round if he coordinates it with his team. This leaves Brimstone in a bad position, because he doesn't have a clear-cut distinct trait that makes him better than the other controllers. The only great thing about Brimstone that the other controllers don't have is that after his last buffs, his smokes last over 19 seconds, which is the longest smoke duration in the game. If we were just comparing which controller agent had the best smokes, then Brimstone would win by a country mile. The problem with this video is we are not comparing the best smokes between all the controller agents, so he is still an inferior agent to all of his counterparts. His Molly and ultimate are nice to have, but since he won't have those every round, he can't use those abilities as a way to compete with the other controllers. Brimstone isn't in C tier because he's a bad agent, he's in C tier because the other controllers keep getting buffs and attention from the devs in episode 2. Last but not least, let's talk about Skye. She isn't that popular and competitive, and in solo queue she feels very hit or miss. You can't really ever say that you straight up won or lost a game because of a Skye player. Ever since she came out, her pick rate and win rate plummeted, and I think we all know why. Skye just doesn't fit a specific role within a team comp, and a lot of players are starting to realize that now. She's a jack of all trades and a master of none. I mean, most players that play her just want her heal and flashes, but once she runs out of those in game, she's pretty much useless, especially because her ult and Tiger can get shot out before they even become useful. Skye has an identity crisis right now in the meta, and it's going to take some changes from the devs in order for her to figure it all out. Well guys, that's all we have for our patch 2.07 tier list. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure to hit that bell notification to ensure you stay up to date with all of our videos and ahead of the competition. If you want further help, feel free to check out our website ProGuides.com for the very best on-demand coaching. Our coaches are among the very best, and we hope that you check them out if you enjoyed this video. This has been Sergeant Frost with the tier list, and I will see you all in the next one.